During this segment, we're going to be discussing the process of preparing ourselves and our staff for a good patient experience prior to even starting the patient visit. The patient experience is more than just a set of techniques that you use to deliver a certain experience. It is a frame of mind, it's an understanding of our role as healthcare providers and the perspective that our patients are coming from. There is a famous quote that I would apply it in this setting, and it says that we see things not as they are, but as we are. We see things through the filter of our own experience, our own prejudices, biases, or our lack of experience. And so we're going to have an identity and a view of the patient experience, of the patient encounter, that may be different from what the patient expects of us. So I want to just take a brief opportunity to look at things as they are. So who are we as healthcare providers? What are our patients seeing in us, and what are they expecting? And the reason why I bring this up is because we're laying the groundwork for ourselves or for our staff to provide a good patient experience. If we do not lay this groundwork, if this change does not come from within, from the identity that we establish for ourselves, then a good patient experience will not take hold. You can train somebody, you can teach some techniques about patient experience, but it will do nothing unless they internalize it, until they are able to see themselves as healthcare providers, as healers. Because once we internalize an identity, then our actions follow and are based on that identity, and they are self-continuing. So what is it that we do for a living? What is it that has become our calling? We are healthcare providers. That means that we are curing, or trying to. We're diagnosing, and ultimately we're trying to heal. Because we're not going to cure everybody. Curing is the process by which we relieve symptoms of a disease or condition, and that may not always be attained. We are trying to diagnose, which is to identify the nature of the cause of the medical condition. That we can do. And more importantly is when the first two are not able to be achieved, we can always help people to heal. Healing is the process of making healthy or whole or sound again. So even if we cannot provide a cure, even if we cannot provide a certain diagnosis, we can always help people to allay their fears, their anxieties, and give them some information and some reassurance. We can always do that. We are healthcare workers, we are healers. So one of the important things to help ourselves and our staffs remember is, how is it that we became healthcare providers? What personal attributes, what experiences, what characteristics do we have that made us say, I want to go into this field? And it's important that we remember those roots of where we came from in our journey, because there are certain traits that are innate to us, and that's the reason why we chose this field. And one of the techniques that I would suggest you use is that if you're trying to develop a program for patient experiences, try to remind your staff or have them remember, what is it about this field that made you go into it? And if we can help them identify the reason why they went into this field and help them see themselves as healers, they will internalize an identity as such. And when you recognize that this is who I am, and when you recognize that the patient experience is intricately involved in that process of helping people to heal, then their identity and what they do, how they interact with patients, will have to be in alignment. Once we go back to that identity as healers, then every action that we take will have to be aligned to that identity. We do not like to do things that are in dissonance with our beliefs and with the way that we act or how we see the world. And once we realize that the patient experience is intimately tied to providing a better environment, better compliance, and better expectations and better follow-up and better outcomes, then we will understand that we have to take it seriously and that it will improve our ability to be who we are, which is healthcare providers and healers. The other thing I would remind ourselves or our staff is to make the point that sometimes we have caretaker fatigue. We experience burnout because we're always cleaning up the mess of everybody's problems, right? And so one of the things that we need to remember is that people perceive our demeanor and we create a first impression within the first couple of seconds. People know, they can read the body language of how we're feeling about them if we're minimizing their concerns. So one of the concepts that needs to be addressed is that we suffer from what is called as the curse of knowledge bias. What is the curse of knowledge bias? It is a cognitive bias that occurs when individuals, like healthcare workers, for example, when they are communicating with other individuals, we assume that they have the same background, the same knowledge, and the same understanding that we have. And in healthcare, that is not correct. I have seen, for example, healthcare workers that are frustrated because a child was brought to a visit with a huge fever, and they throw their arms up and they are saying, why didn't you give this child some Motrin or Tylenol? And the parents will often say, I didn't know if he was okay. I wanted you to see them. That's a perfect example of the curse of knowledge bias. So we have to start from a viewpoint where we have accumulated knowledge, medical knowledge, and our patients are seeking that knowledge. There's a power imbalance right off the bat. And we have to be ready to interact with our patients from a place where we have to understand that that is the very reason why they're coming to see us. And our demeanor, our approach has to come from a place of understanding and compassion for them. Lastly, to lay the groundwork of how we prepare ourselves for a visit, how we prepare our staff for a visit, is that we need to understand our patient's perspective. We should understand three things. Number one, they usually are anxious about something. Number two, they have a concern, a worry. And number three is they want to be reassured. So you have to drill that into ourselves and into our teams. If we're going to meet our patients' expectations, every single patient that we see, we have to discover what is it that you're worried about? What is it that you're anxious about? Do you have any concerns? And here's some reassurance. Finally, I would invite you to remind your teams before the start of a shift, before the start of the day, before the patients even come in, of how you're going to mentally prepare for that day and for the visits that are coming. Some places prepare huddles. Some places have a routine, a mantra that they follow. I would recommend that you and your staff somehow verbalize your role as healers and what to expect for that day. I trained in a busy emergency department in a county program in Minneapolis, and I developed a mantra every day as I was walking from the parking spot in the garage, opening the emergency trauma base where I went into work. I remember asking myself, okay, Minneapolis, what are you going to throw at me today? I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready to help. and that really set the mood for the rest of the shift. And that's what's worked for me. I would encourage you to find ways in which you remind yourself every day when you come to work what you're doing and what you're there for.